The Slumbercoach is an 85-foot-long, 24 single-room, 8 double-room streamlined sleeping car, built in 1956 by the Budd Company for the Chicago, Burlington and Quincy Railroad for service on the Denver Zephyr. Subsequent orders were placed in 1958 and 1959 by the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad and Missouri Pacific Railroad for the Texas Eagle National Limited, then in 1959 by the Northern Pacific Railway for its North Coast Limited, and also the New York Central Railroad for use on the 20th Century Limited. History: the Slumbercoach, in economic terms, was part of the American Railways' attempt in the 1950s to recapture market share lost to airlines, buses and the automobile by providing upgraded accommodations for non-first-class passengers. Demand for private accommodation remained high, while demand for the traditional Pullman open section was declining. Other types of economy sleeping car did not have the capacity of the Slumbercoach. 16 duplex room at 4 double-bedroom car slept only 24, while the traditional 16-section tourist Pullman slept 32. Thus, the Slumbercoach, sleeping 40, allowed railways to offer coach passengers private sleeping car accommodation at little more than coach fare. In its first year of using Slumbercoaches on the North Coast Limited, the Northern Pacific Railway averaged a 27-room occupancy rate, and a 34-passenger occupancy rate. Quote, in late 1964 and early 1965, the Northern Pacific bought 8 Slumbercoaches second-hand. 4 came from the New York Central, 3 from the Baltimore and Ohio, and the Missouri Pacific Sloan car. This enabled the NP to expand Slumbercoaches to the secondary transcontinental passenger train, the Main Streeter, and to discontinue the pooling of Slumbercoaches between the North Coast Limited and Burlington's Denver Zephyr. A total of 18 Slumbercoaches were built by Budd, with an additional 10 rebuilt from Budd 22 roomed sleepers by the New York Central. Unlike the original 18, the rebuilds had 10 duplex and 16 single rooms, giving a maximum capacity of 36. Amtrak operated all of these cars, save for 3 previously wrecked and scrapped by the New York Central. 2, built for the Baltimore and Ohio's Columbia, were not acquired by Amtrak until the early 1980s. The first Amtrak loss was on July 7, 1984, when the northbound Montreal hit a washed-out culvert, destroying Slumbercoach 2083, originally owned by the New York Central Railroad. About the same time, ex-Denver Zephyr Slumbercoach 2086, the Silver Siesta, was burned by vandals between runs at Sunnyside Yard in Queens, New York. Most of Amtrak's remaining Slumbercoaches were retired in the 1990s, with the last being put up for sale in 2001. Internationally, the Slumbercoach can be compared to second-class or hard sleeper facilities on Asian and European lines, but economically comparable facilities such as those provided on the train Blue between Paris and the south of France, which de-emphasized privacy, and in place of this provided multiple-occupant couchette compartments with fold-away beds. The development of mid-level accommodation like the Slumbercoach has ceased due to changing demand in mass transit. Design and pricing. Slumbercoaches contained a central aisle flanked on each side of the car by 1-person and 2-person rooms with 1 or 2 narrow, 6-foot-long beds provided with basic sheets and blankets. Each room featured a fold-away wash basin and private toilet similar in design to contemporary standard Pullman, but on a smaller scale. To maximize the number of rooms per car, the designers chose a duplex staggered design for the single room such that every other room was accessible by a small flight of steps. This allowed beds in the car to either overlay or underlay the room in front of it. Western Railways chose to redesign the coach seat for greater width and comfort, with the result that by the time U.S. passenger rail transport was nationalized, railway coach seats provided, at a basic price, comfort available only in first class on airlines. Nevertheless, the cars were popular and Amtrak used them well into the 1990s. In 1980, Slumbercoaches were operated on Amtrak's Montreal, Lakeshore Limited, Night Owl, Broadway Limited, and Silver Meteor. At the time, the cost of a Slumbercoach ticket was $16.50 a night extra on the New York-Montreal train, as compared to $39.50 for a full-size Romat, and $24 versus $71 for the Romat on the New York Street Petersburg train. Those prices were exclusive of the price of a coach ticket. Preservation. Numerous Slumbercoaches have been preserved, including Silver Rippos, built 1956 for Burlington's Denver Zephyr, current location, Tennessee Central Railway Museum, Nashville, Tennessee. Silver Slumber, built 1956 for Burlington's Denver Zephyr, current location, Gold Coast Railroad Museum, Miami, Florida. Dreamland, built 1956 for B&O's Columbian, current location, Baltimore and Ohio Railroad Museum, Baltimore, Maryland. Log Sloy, built 1959 for &P B&Q North Coast Limited, current location, Illinois Railway Museum, Union, Illinois. Log Archaic, built 1959 for the New York Central's 20th Century Limited, later used by the Northern Pacific, current location, Southeastern Railway Museum, Duluth, Georgia.